What's up, guys? Welcome into All Tied Up. It is Tuesday as we're recording this, and we've got our weekly stock up, stock down, and we're going to be going over some players, some moments, and some things that happened in Saturday's game against Western Kentucky, just after the first weekend of the season, and talking about whose stock went up, whose stock went down. A lot more positivity than anything negative as well. But I am one of your hosts, Chris Marler, joined by my good buddy Clint Lamb. Clint, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Can you say all tied up one time? One more
All
time.
tied up.
Every time you say it, man, it's amazing. Anyways,
All I
I'm not.
hear, all I hear in my head is Gretchen Wilson going, "I'm all jacked up." That's every single time.
We can get off subject real quick. So I've got us
Yeah,
back, but I just wanted to hear it one more time. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be reacting to a game. I'm kind
yeah,
of I was pretty tired about previewing and predicting and doing all that. And obviously, you're doing that every week to an extent, but then you also get the reaction side of it now. You get to
yeah.
see some stuff on the field, see how guys perform, see how guys were used. And I think that's really important. So, Chris, I'll let you go first as far as your first stock up guy. And like I said, we are going to be doing, at least one stock down, might end up getting into the discussion of some more, but it's nothing going to be, too negative. It's just based off of maybe where we thought they'd be compared to where they are currently. It's at least worth discussing. So, Chris, give me your first stock up.
Stock up, Quay Russaw. My goodness. And here's the thing: I've brought this up before, and I think a lot of people going into the season, even some of the hosts here on All Tied Up, they said the same thing going into it this year with Russaw being in the bunch of of the edge rushers that are looking to break out this year, because you lose Braswell and you lose Turner, right? Obviously, you lose Anderson the year before. But I brought this stat up a while back where you had the first 3 years from 247 Sports when they the first 3 years they ranked the edge rush position as its own position. I believe it was 2021 through 2023. There were 10 total 5-stars in those 3 classes at the edge rush position, and Bama got 6 of them. Guys like Keon Keeley, Quay Russaw was one of them. You had, I think, Yanzi Pierre was another one. Just different guys, and you just keep expecting them to break out. And I think a lot of us on paper kind of expected, as soon as he got there, Keon Keeley to be one of those guys, because he's a top 5 overall player in the country coming out of high school on various platforms. So that's not any disrespect to him, but I was wondering who was going to kind of take the next step out of that bunch, like that specific bunch from those recruiting classes. And it looks like Quay Russaw is the guy. He was. We talked about Jahad Campbell being all over the field the other night. Russaw was everywhere, like just everywhere. And I thought it was really good to see. And there were moments I thought, like early on in the game, where you'd have whole series for Western Kentucky, and it felt like he impacted every single play, whether it was getting a key stop, whether it was, in a run fit or like making the back change direction or something like that, or just a QB pressure and things like that. I thought he was phenomenal in his first real start, or not start, but first significant playing time. And I have his stock way up.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. He, to me, feels like when you talk about stock up, stock down, he's the definition of a stock up guy. I mean, he
Yeah.
ended up getting the start. I don't think anybody was expecting that, even though it made sense. Like when you look at all of the Wolves, he is easily the most capable 3-down Wolf that they have.
Yeah.
There might be, I think as far as pure edge rusher playing specifically that role, maybe, in passing situations, by the way,
Yeah.
a Quandarius Robinson might have the most upside there as a pure pass rusher. But you did not see him nearly as comfortable. Like half of Quay Russaw's snaps were spent kind of off the ball, standing in the middle. It's a shallow off-ball linebacker where you can technically call him as defensive alignment, like a 3-3-5.
Right.
When Quay Russaw was being asked to do that, he looked very comfortable, had a
Yes.
very natural feel for it. Robinson, there was one where he kind of shot or bounced outside because he thought the run was bouncing outside, and he was supposed to have a gap inside, and he left it open. So he doesn't look nearly as comfortable in that area. Russaw still is a very twitched up pass rusher, and out there on the edge, man, the Courtney Upshaw edge setting ability is certainly there. Just his ability to understand, he's a shorter guy, stockier guy, 6'1". I think he's up to, I forget what the weight is now, but I mean, he's heavy. I want to say 250 plus. And just, you can tell because of that height and, maybe a little bit of the lack of length, but I thought just from getting extension, keeping offensive linemen off of his chest, understood, very good job setting the edge, very impactful, on what should have been the Deontay Lawson interception. It was Quay Russaw who was able to pull an inside move on the tackle, apply pressure on TJ Finley, and Finley ended up making a poor decision and throwing what should have been an interception.
Right.
So he impacted the game in so many ways. And, when you look, I guess in some ways you saw an early down, obvious passing situation split between Russaw and Quandarius Robinson. I think Robinson will continue to serve in that role, moving forward. But I think Russaw can certainly handle 3-down responsibilities and still be a very impactful pass rusher when he's asked to stay out there on 3rd downs.
Yeah.
So I think that's absolutely huge. Very, very impressed with him. Just don't think that he could have done any better. And I think he's going to be one of the stars of this Alabama defense if he continues to trend in the direction that he's currently heading, because he's versatile. He can stop the run and he can get after the quarterback. There's not a whole lot more that you could ask for from him than they're getting. For me, let's switch to the offensive side of the football. And I'm guessing, is Ron Williams on yours?
No.
Okay.
You got to be 18 to be on mine. And that kid is, you got to be of legal voting age to be on mine.
Never mind. I'm not going to say that. Anyways, Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams. I thought he was phenomenal, man. Just the moment didn't seem too big for him. I understand it's Western Kentucky. I understand Alabama was a 31.5-point favorite. I understand that this weekend against USF, they're a 30.5-point favorite.
Right.
I understand that Western Kentucky's defense was not very good last year. In fact, it was, no offense to him, but downright terrible. And, you'll probably see maybe some improvement this year, but more than likely it's going to continue to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to really get a full feel for where Ryan Williams is at, but this was his first collegiate game, and he was not only making an impact being thrown the football, but you started seeing, Western Kentucky do some things to try to make sure he wasn't, doing any more of those explosive plays, and that created some opportunities for others. So very impressed with him. What did you think about Ryan Williams, since apparently he, is not old enough to make your list?
I thought he was great. I have such a hard time with this kid because he's clearly going to be a star. He's clearly going to be a star. He might already be a star, if we're being honest. I have a difficult time at 38 years old watching memes and things, and the kid's 17. This is
Did
not
you just say you're having a problem at 38 years old watching a 17-year-old?
That's not what I said at all. First off, and Allie is in the room, so you better zip it. No, the issue I have is this. I'm joking when I say I have an issue with Ryan Williams. He's a phenomenal talent, a phenomenal athlete. He's so good. He getting out of that ankle tackle. I thought the other day between two defenders, that might have been the most impressive thing he did, because we expect him to be able to run free and get behind the defense and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know how polished of a route runner he would be. I didn't know how physical he would be able to hold up in situations. And it's a long season, so we'll see more of that throughout the year, I'm sure. But look at seeing that thing on social media that somebody posted. They were like, just to put this in perspective, Ryan Williams was not alive for this press conference of getting Nick Saban into Tuscaloosa, because I think he was born that year. He was he won't turn 18 until a few weeks after the college football playoff is over, which is insane. It's just insane. But I will say this, and I'm going to go on my first negative one, and it's probably because I haven't had enough coffee or Celsius yet to start the day. And it's not really negative. It's just a stock down that I'm going to say almost as a motivation type thing. And we're going to see this throughout the year. Stock down, Jeremy Bernard. And it's not even anything that he did wrong. We talked about this yesterday on our show on All Tied Up. on the live show and the Monday mailbag. But like I think that after we saw the spring game, we were like, man, this is going to be the guy. Like he's going to be the guy. Like, and then we even heard some some projections about maybe Kendrick Law was going to come in there. We all thought that Ryan Williams was going to have a big impact on this offense, but I just kind of assumed, excuse me, I just kind of assumed Jeremy Bernard would at least have more targets than one target in the first game. And I think that part of that is, is being in a situation where you only threw the ball 9 times with your starting quarterback. That's it. You might have dropped back more than that, but you had 9 attempted passes from your starting quarterback. You still had 3 touchdowns. You still had 200+ yards. A lot of chunk plays. I think we'll see that with Jeremy Bernard as the season goes on. I was just kind of surprised it wasn't more involved in the first game of the year. So again, I just want to be very clear. It's not anything really even negative towards him. I think if you asked Jeremy Bernard going into this game, he probably would have thought he had more than one target as well. And some of those guys like him and Kendrick Law, who have been in been in college football for a minute. That's I think year 3 for both of them, right? I bet they both would have wanted to have more targets and not seen the young pup take over everything, even though a lot of people probably were expecting that in the fan base.
This is one, and this is kind of why I wanted to continue, to add the stock down, because this was the perfect conversation,
right?
Type of player for this.
Not bad.
Not bad, exactly. And for fans, because a lot of fans, I'm sure, feel the same way you do, and it isn't bad, but it is something that's like, okay, this guy's supposed to be the wide receiver 1. He got 1 target, 17-yard catch, good catch, great throw. But what I will say is that, to put it into perspective, he got 1 target. Targets are dictated based off of the quarterback throwing them the football, right? I mean, so you've got to be open. The quarterback's got to see you open. He's got to be able to throw it to you. Jalen Milroe was working through his progressions, and on the 2 touchdown passes to Ryan Williams, Ryan Williams was not the primary guy. It was Jalen working through his progression. So he went to 1, went to 2, so Jeremy Bernard got glossed over a couple of times, probably because he wasn't open. Now, is that like a lack of separation or something? No, I don't think that was the problem. Just for whatever reason, it wasn't there for him on those particular plays, and ends up going to somebody else. So I think that's important to keep in mind. Coming into this game, Jalen Milroe. Okay, he's playing in the Kalen DeBoer offense. He's about to throw the football way more than he did last year. He attempted 9 passes.
Yeah.
And we all know why. It was game script. It was the fact that he averaged over 20 yards per attempt. That's
right.
Wrong. You look at, Justice Haynes. If he didn't have an 85-yard touchdown run, we're looking at him. He gets 3 carries for 17 yards, and that's a good yards per carry average. It's over 5 yards. But we're like, man, I was kind of hoping to see more from Justice Haynes in this first week.
Yeah.
Only 17 yards rushing. What's the problem? Okay, well, because he didn't get a lot of rushing attempts, that means Jam Miller must have gone off, right? I mean, they scored 63 points. Right. He had 5 rushes, so 4 rushes, 5 rushes. So all of these guys that you thought were going to be the stars, because of game script and the way that it played out, they didn't get the opportunities, the number of opportunities that they will in some of these other games. And that's important to keep in mind. They're not going to be scoring 85-yard runs and 39-yard runs and 40 and, all these different things, deep touchdowns to Ryan Williams, a couple of them every single game. So as you start to have more sustained drives, that's more targets for everybody. It's more carry opportunities. And so that's something to keep in mind. I don't think fans should be panicking on Jeremy Bernard, but the fact that he did have 1 target, I feel like that's a very fair statement to at least include him based off of where we thought he would be. I just don't think he's going to be on this list very long.
Yeah.
For me, stock down guy, and it's just because of the usage. I mean, it's nothing. I thought it was going to be a 3-headed rotation at Wolf, and that's Keanu Coote. And instead, it was Quandarius Robinson being that guy that came in. It was Quay Russaw getting the start and kind of being the main guy. Coote is going to be a contributor this year. I don't know how much action he'll get. It was strange to me that you were considering a 3-headed monster, even though we had all kind of agreed that's where it was heading, because that is a lot of rotation for really 1 spot. And it seems like, at least in game one, it's not that he didn't play at all. I think he had, let me look. I think he had close to 20 snaps, 20 plus snaps. Anyways, I'll be able to pull it up here in just a second.
Yeah.
But the point is that based off of where we thought he'd be, he didn't get into the second half at some point. And I really liked the tandem of Russaw and Robinson. I thought that's kind of exactly what you're looking for. Russaw seems like the best of the bunch. I can see situationally why Robinson would also be involved. And that just, to me, how much are you sacrificing going from Russaw to Coot? That's tough to say at this point. But he feels more like a situational player as well.
Yeah.
So if he's more situational and he's trying to battle Robinson for those specific snaps, Robinson's winning that battle. You can't divide just a few snaps over two guys. That's really tough to do. So maybe Coot doesn't end up being as big of a contributor this year as we thought, but I still think he's going to be important. And I think that if they have to work into that depth, if something happens with Russaw, it's a little bit different because of what he provides. It's different than all the rest of them. But if Robinson gets banged up and Coot has to replace him, I don't think there's that much drop off, with the snaps that he's going to be taking over. But compared to what we thought he was going to be, it is kind of a stock down situation for him.
Dude, I'll give you the last one for me. And first off, stock up on you being able to pronounce the last name correctly. That was impressive.
I had to work on it.
Yeah.
Can't get in the black right. Never have. Ola Alinen. Never get that one right, but Coot. I got old Coot right.
I love it. Okay, last one I'll give you. And it's kind of a cop-out, but it's also kind of not, because I think it's something that I at least was very concerned about going into this game. It is as a whole, stock up the secondary. Because you didn't hear, like, the only name that you're hearing about in the secondary after game one is Keon Sabb. And it's not just because he had 2 interceptions and he came in his first game. He almost ran one back. I don't know how we had 5 guys that weren't able to get a block and get a kick or a pick 6 on there. Almost said kick 6. That was bad. No, I think that that having like the last thing that you want to hear, I feel like if you're a defensive back after a game, unless it involves an interception, is your name. Because that means there's probably an issue going on. That secondary, the longest pass play they gave up all night was 16 yards. Had very few chunk plays. They had no plays over 20 yards all night, which is good. They had a couple that were over 10 yards. I'm looking at the receivers right now. The long was like 16. One guy had 13, another was 12, another for 10. Gave up very, very few. I think he had 1 run over 10 yards. So you're giving up a handful of 10-yard plus plays to an offense like that. And here's the other thing. I brought this stat up yesterday, and I don't care if it's Western Kentucky, and I'm not trying to be a homer here by getting ahead of our skis and talking about how great this defense is, and because it's a long season. But Western Kentucky finished the last 3 seasons with the nation's number 15th ranked pass offense, 2nd ranked pass offense, and number 1 overall ranked pass offense in the whole country, in all of FBS. And you held them to 103 total passing yards and 145 yards total. It was their lowest offensive output, and the first time they've been held under 200 yards of offense dating back to the first game of the 2009 season. So you're talking about 15 years and of basically a historic low from Western Kentucky on offense. I'll tell you how far back it goes, Clint. Do you ever use CFBstats.com?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it starts in 2009. That's the numbers they have it start. You had to literally go all the way back to the very first game from the 2009 option to see the last time they had less than 200 yards of offense. And so, again, nation's ranked 15th, 2nd, and 1st overall passing offense over the last 3 years. That's about as good as you can get from a consistency standpoint. I thought the defense played great. And it's not just Sabb. It's the fact, dude, you threw 3 freshmen back there that were all highly ranked freshmen, but you threw 3 freshmen back there to go play against an offense that at least schematically has been able to put up numbers every single time they play. And it doesn't matter who it's against. So I thought you could sit here on the outside looking in if you're a rival fan and a hater and say, oh, well, TJ Finley sucks, or this team wasn't any good. It's Western Kentucky, blah, blah, blah. But against that, I thought that team was going to get baptized a little bit. That secondary was going to get baptized a little bit going into their first game, because that's what we've seen this program do, not just for a couple of years, but for a decade plus. and I was very, very impressed with them.
Yeah, I mean, and really, if you think about it, the surprise was Zay Mincy as far as just now. Granted, we've already
Mhm.
discussed why that could have been as far as Deshaun Jones maybe not being 100%, but really it was 4 freshmen if you include the 3 corners and Red Morgan at Husky. So it was a very, very young secondary. All those guys were contributing in the first half, getting snaps, and they all held up well. You're right. I thought Caden Veltkamp, who was the guy who came in, for the bowl game against Old Dominion last year for Western Kentucky, threw for 5 touchdowns, had
Mhm.
like 52, pass attempts. I thought he was a better fit for their system than TJ Finley. I understand why they went with Finley. Obviously, he's a former SEC quarterback, had a lot of success at Texas State last year. He's played Alabama twice. He's played Kane Womack once. And so, just from a leadership standpoint, being like, hey, this guy's done it before. He knows what to expect. Making him kind of the leader for this game made sense. But I still say Veldkamp is probably, a better fit for their system. So, how
Yeah.
much does that play into it? How much doesn't it? But I mean, it was a very impressive performance by the secondary. There's no doubt, and I think that they've got a lot of playmakers back there. And it's like I said about Ron Williams multiple times. This is as green as Alabama's secondary is going to be this year,
Yeah.
because every time they now have a game's worth of experience, part of a game at the very least of playing time and experience. They know what to expect a little bit more this week against USF, and all these young guys who are probably going to be playing quite a bit again. They'll get another game of experience, and then you start facing some challenges, some road challenges against a pretty good Wisconsin team, Georgia. It's just the experience factor is only going to get better from here. And when you combine that with the talent, that secondary should continue to trend in the right direction. I mean, they'll have some hiccups. It's not going to look this good every week. I'll go ahead and tell you that. But I still think it's going to continue to get better week over week. The next guy for me, as far as being a stock up guy, is Wilkin Formby. And we talked
Mhm.
about him yesterday, but he makes a lot of sense. I thought he played extremely well. It's unfortunate for Elijah Pritchett because while he's needing to kick over and man the left tackle spot for however long Caden Proctor's out, I think Wilkin Formby is winning the right tackle job.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just, as long as he's playing well, there's some continuity there as far as, when you're in weeks 3 and 4 or whatever. He's been the one playing next to Jaden Roberts. They got a good rapport. Elijah Pritchett hadn't been playing next to, Jaden Roberts the last few weeks or whenever, Proctor finally comes back and maybe he kicks back over to right tackle. So it's just, what Wilkin Formby did on Saturday was he took full advantage of his opportunity,
Yeah.
and he wanted to be the full-time starter. And for that game, he was the full-time starter. Obviously, he rotated out, but for every snap that he was in there, I thought the run blocking was serviceable. He was pretty darn good in that area. The pass protection was excellent, in my opinion. He's going to face a lot more challenges in the future, way bigger challenges.
Yeah.
But he held up well, and as long as he continues to do that, I made the prediction coming into the year, the very bold prediction that Wilkin Formby was going to be Alabama's best offensive tackle, and that wasn't attacking Caden Proctor. That was my belief in Formby, and at least through 1 week, I think he's showing that he's trending in that direction. Anybody else for you on the stock up or stock down? Either one. And if you're done, that's totally fine. I got one more on my stock up, and we'll talk about him and then get out of here.
So I just wanted to say one thing to Wilkin Formby and his parents, and just really glad that Wilkin Formby became a 6'7", 300+ pound person, because you naming your kid Wilkin in Tuscaloosa, Alabama is a tough scene. If that kid was 5'11" or 5'8", if Wilkin Formby was 5'8" and 145 pounds, he would have had a tough life. And I'm happy for him because he's really made the most of it. And he's honestly, he's been a trailblazer for Wilkins everywhere.
You can't put Clint in all caps on a birthday cake, so I'm never going to judge anybody at all for their name. My parents screwed up royally with that. And it wasn't like it was a family name or anything. It was just, my middle name, which I will not reveal because then I'll never hear the end of it. But it was a family name. Clint was not. I still don't understand that at all. Anyways, last one for me, the very obvious answer, Jahad Campbell.
Yeah.
And just, I did go back. What's interesting is the 3-man rotation at, linebacker. You've got Deontay Lawson, who played well. You got Justin Jefferson, who rotated in. He played extremely well. And just the snap differences there. let me pull it up. So Deontay Lawson played 49 snaps, Jahad Campbell played 46, and Justin Jefferson played 35. If you look back at the three-man rotation at South Alabama last year under Kane Womack, Trey Kaiser had 580, James Miller had 482, and Khalil Jacobs, who's now at Missouri, who Alabama courted for a little while, he had 447. So you had three linebackers, all, obviously Kaiser had, 130 more than Khalil Jacobs, but I mean, that's pretty similar, all in that 450 to 600 range for those three guys. If this is anything like that, it's going to be right in line with that. So it is a pure three, and it's not like Jahad Campbell's having to come off the field in a lot of those situations that Justin Jefferson is coming on. He's just sliding as an edge rusher. He played, about 20% of his snaps as an edge rusher on Saturday, and just playing that Mike position in this defense. It's kind of, and like you see the Wolf, and the Wolf will line up kind of as a middle linebacker off the ball, even though it's shallow. You'll see the Mike, and with Jahad Campbell, he'll line up on the edge. So it's almost like those guys are in some ways interchangeable, which is really fun because it gives opposing offenses a lot of different looks. But he made an impact in so many ways: just the pursuit, the closing speed, the sideline to sideline ability, the coverage, the applying pressure on TJ Finley, batting the ball back to Finley and then tackling him for a loss. Just a really, really impactful guy who was all over the field. The two most impressive defensive players. I know Sabb gets a lot of the recognition, and he should, but to me, it was Russaw and it was Jahad Campbell.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's all I got, man.
Yeah, that's kind of it for me too. And this has been fun. You hate ragging on anybody, but we'll see where if Jeremy Bernard's on this list next week. I still don't think it's really too much of a reason to panic. If it's week 3 and Jeremy Bernard is still on this list or still getting mentioned as being a possibility for this list, then you need to start saying, okay. But for right now, I still think he's going to be Alabama's number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
Ron Williams will probably emerge as Alabama's biggest play threat. He'll probably end up having, I wouldn't be surprised if he had the most yardage because he's like a vertical threat. But as far as targets and receptions, I think Jeremy Bernard's probably, I still am pretty confident that he's going to be Alabama's number 1 receiver this upcoming season. And that is with a lot of other talent on the field as well. So, Chris, go ahead.
This is like, because I'm looking at the numbers again, just one more time. The top 3 receivers from Washington last year, they all got drafted. Polk, McMillan, and Odunze, right? Odunze, obviously, top 10 pick, and I think he went to the Bears or whatever. But you're talking about guys that had like 2 guys over 1,100 yards. Like, there's room for everyone in this offense to eat. So it's like I still think that 3 guys you're going to have it's going to be in some order: Jeremy, and then Kendrick Law, and then Ryan Williams. So like, I don't care how the numbers are divvied up as long as they're getting in the end zone and they're getting in their yards. And I think that's the one thing too is I tell you what, it's really impressive to see from game 1 getting off to such a great start, because I heard all offseason from people outside of Tuscaloosa, oh, well, Jalen Miller wasn't that great, and who's he going to throw to? And it's like, dude, like he came in right away. Like the comments that were made about Tommy Rees about how it took him 2 months to figure out how to plan an offense around him because of how average to below average of a quarterback Jalen Miller was. We learned in 1 week how clearly untrue that is. So no offense to Tommy Rees, clearly wasn't a good fit. I wasted a lot of money on Reese Nuts shirts that I made. That was tough. Made no profit on that. So, but yeah, I'm happy to see they got off to a good start.
Yeah, and Kendrick Law, I like that you brought him up because I really didn't think to, and that was a big mistake on my part. He's going to be a big part of this offense too. What he does well, I mean, they're going to be able to do some things with him. And it was a vanilla game plan, and they didn't want to show a whole lot. And Jeremy Bernard and Kendrick Law are kind of those guys that you are going to use in a variety of ways that you really don't want to show off too much at this point. Yeah. So it would make sense for neither one of them to be a huge part of it. And, we'll just have to wait and see how it's going, because I mean, Ron Williams accounted for 70% of Jalen Milroe's yardage on Saturday. 70%. I mean, that's not going to be the case every week. So, I mean, there's going to be more attempts. There's probably going to be a lot more yardage than 200. They're not going to average 20 yards, over 20 yards per attempt, but they're going to have a lot more yardage. And, you're going to see those numbers for everybody climb up, and that includes the run game as well. Chris, this has been fun. I appreciate you as always. We'll be back next week for the Monday mailbag, and then the stock up, stock down on Tuesday. Hopefully we got, a lot more stock up guys for the second consecutive week compared to stock down. I also want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, like this video, share this video wherever you can. We very much appreciate that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is a tremendous help to us. Last time I checked, and I haven't checked it in a couple of days. We got in first, and I turned my attention elsewhere, and I shouldn't have done that. We got to make sure we stay ahead of Auburn, the Barn YouTube channel, because they were way ahead of us when we started this journey a few weeks ago. We now have more subscribers, but they're climbing every day. We need everybody to subscribe if that can. We very much appreciate that. And then go sign up at covercrimson.com. I got my snap count observations for the defense already up. The offense is going to be coming a little bit later today. A lot of information jam-packed over there. It's not just snap counts, it's observations. And it's really, I put up some graphics as far as the way that guys were aligned, all these different things. So go check that stuff out. It's only $1 for, a month. And Chris, do you have anything else before we hop out of here, brother?
Roll Tide.
Love it. All right, guys, we will see you. Well, I guess Chris and I will see you guys next week. But Mick and I will be on Wednesday. So we appreciate you guys.